Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. Putting aside the ethics of posthumously publishing a writer's unpublished work for a second, it's interesting what you can learn from what a writer ultimately shelved. There's a new collection out now of Harper Lee's previously unpublished early short stories titled The Land of Sweet Forever. It was edited by Casey Sepp, who told Here and Now's Peter O'Dowd that you could really see Lee's growth as a writer through these stories. But it was also important for Sepp to include Lee's later essays in this collection to show the full breadth of Lee as a writer and a person. That's after the break.
This message comes from Schwab. At Schwab, how you invest is your choice, not theirs. That's why when it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices. You can invest and trade on your own. Plus, get advice and more comprehensive wealth solutions to help meet your unique needs. With award-winning service, low costs, and transparent advice, you can manage your wealth your way at Schwab. Visit schwab.com to learn more.
New short stories from one of America's most beloved authors were published this week. The Land of Sweet Forever by Harper Lee includes 8 stories written by the Pulitzer Prize-winning author after she moved to New York City in 1949 and a decade before she wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. With these stories, Harper Lee introduces readers to early versions of her 2 most famous characters from the best-selling novel, Scout and her father, Atticus. Here they are in a scene from the 1962 film adaptation.
Scout, you know what a compromise is?
Been in the law?
No. It's an agreement reached by mutual consent.
Casey Sepp is staff writer at The New Yorker and editor of the new collection. Casey, it's so good to speak with you because what a thrill it must have been to come across these unpublished stories from Harper Lee. Where were they found and in what condition were they in?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And since I count myself among Harper Lee's biggest fans, it truly was thrilling. I know there are a lot of folks who, read Go Set a Watchman and have been wondering how she became a writer and what her early work was like. So these were found in her New York City apartment after she died. And the effort now to publish them, I think is quite sweet because we've married these 8 stories from before To Kill a Mockingbird with 8 essays she wrote later in her life. So it's actually a sweet little book with some work from the beginning of her career when she first moved to New York and, like so many struggling artists, was trying to figure out how to write, trying to find an agent, submitting to magazines, but but getting rejected. So these stories, to my mind, were just lucky they survived. You know, there were all these rumors that she was a destroyer of drafts and manuscripts. So quite special to know they're still around.
Well, I know you're prepared to read a passage from one of these stories. It's the opening lines of The Pinking Shears, where a young girl is reflecting on some trouble that she got into by cutting off another girl's hair. Can you read that for us now?
Sure thing. And it's sweet to marry it to the excerpt of the film you've played because certainly folks will recognize the young girl in question. So this is the beginning of the story. After it was all over, Daddy said it was my fault. But to this day, I say it isn't. That the child had a perfect right to cut her own hair if she wanted to. Well, I sort of cut it, but Madrid told me to. How would I know it was against the laws of God? There is nothing in the discipline of the Methodist Episcopal Church South that says it's sinful to cut your hair. And if Mr. Q.W. Tatum says it is from the pulpit, he's the one that's wrong, not me. So you can hear the kind of pluckish, Tom Sawyer, like Scout Finch taking shape already there. And I
Is
think
that
that's
what you
one of the
think's
things
happening?
that's sweet.
You
Oh,
think she's developing the characters
absolutely.
here?
Yeah, you get a sense by the end of that story. It's an amazing parallel to that passage you just played, which is from To Kill a Mockingbird. And, the young Scout is learning legalese from her father. And there's another kind of adjudication of adult and juvenile responsibility. But also explicitly in these stories, she's using the names that of the characters that will be part of To Kill a Mockingbird. So I think it is really sweet. It's this early look at a hardworking and devoted writer who gets better, who through the course of these stories, even by the end of these 8, is just so much better at what she's trying to do. And in some cases, we can trace little passages, little vignettes from the stories to the completed novels. So I think it's a joy for folks who love the work to kind of get a peek behind the curtain in these early days and early struggles of a writer.
Harper Lee died in 2016, and she always, she had this reputation of being a mysterious person, even a recluse, who really only had one famous novel, Go Set a Watchman, published just before she died. Do you think this new project reveals anything about her life or who she was as a person?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Obviously, the stories stand on their own, and there are all sorts of aesthetic questions we can ask about them. And to some extent, we can tease out autobiography or elements of her life that she folded into them. But I think the answer to your question comes in the second half of this book, which has 8 essays Harper Lee actually published, and sometimes in obscure places, and oftentimes just so long ago they've been forgotten. But they're surprisingly social. The two that come to mind are profiles of her childhood friend, Truman Capote, and of Gregory Peck, the actor whose voice we just heard there, who, to her mind, just fulfilled the character of Atticus in his on
Mm,
screen portrayal. But both of those essays, just again, I think, over and over again, I'm working on a biography of Lee, and people who knew her well just insist to me this idea of her as a recluse or antisocial is so wrong and misguided that actually, she loved a cocktail party. She loved gossip, and I think that social aspect of her personality comes out, and something too in the stories it will probably shock readers who only think of her as a small town girl. Half of these
briefly,
stories
yeah.
are set in New York City.
Mm,
There's just so much of her cosmopolitan life in
interesting.
the city there. So real joys for people who want to know her better.
Casey Sepp, staff writer at The New Yorker, editor of the new collection, The Land of Sweet Forever, Stories and Essays by Harper Lee. The book is on sale now. Casey, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I hope you enjoy the book.
And just a reminder that signing up for Book of the Day Plus is a great way to support NPR's book coverage and public media. And you'll get to listen to every episode sponsor-free. So please go find out more at plus.npr.org/book of the day.
This message comes from REI Co-op. Don't be surprised when you're this season's best gift giver. With REI's curated selection of outdoor gear, from top-rated running shoes to merino wool base layers, you don't have to guess. REI makes it easy to find the gear that gets them out there. It gets even easier with trusted advice and recommendations from REI's outdoor pros in over 190 stores. So when you gift them something they'll actually use, you won't be surprised, but they will. This season, give without guessing. Shop in-store or head to rei.com.
This message comes from Jerry. Are you tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/NPR today.